This week on Working Class Foodies, we're going to learn where oysters come from. Karen Rivara of Eros Oyster Farm and Shellfisher Preserve invited us over to see how she grows her Peconic Pearl oysters. We took the ferry across to the North Fork, where Shellfisher Preserve is located.
I'm Karen Rivara, and this is Shellfisher Preserve, which is owned by the Peconic Land Trust, and it's where I operate my shellfish farm. I grow oysters mostly. I've been here since 2004, growing oysters in my hatchery. This site was preserved by the Peconic Land Trust. It used to belong to the Plock family, and they owned the Shelter Island Oyster Company, so this was an oyster farm. And it still is.
The hatchery was set up decades ago by the Plock family. It is the only hatchery of its type in the entire country.
The Plock family, they were innovators. They took the water from the bay and moved it up to inland on the property and used it to cultivate their oysters. And they also had a barn that was over a creek, and they used that to grow their oysters in the wintertime so that they could go down and harvest all winter long and not have to worry about people stealing their product. So it's a really unique place and a very important part of the history of oystering on the east end of Long Island. So it's great that the Peconic Land Trust preserved this piece of property, and the National Grid Foundation helped along with the USDA with funding from them. It's been preserved since 1996. We came up with a way to grow oysters down here and sell them so that some of that money would go to projects that benefit the bay that we work on, because it's very important to raise public awareness and improve stewardship so that people understand that we live in an estuary, so everything we put on the ground ends up in the water, and so they'll take better care of the estuary if they understand through the oyster what good stewardship is. So I produce Peconic Pearl oysters. I spawn them and produce them to market size here. I have a hatchery that's underground, and that's where I spawn the oysters. So the first part of that is to grow the food. If you can't grow the algae, you're not going to grow anything. And then I have to condition the oysters to spawn. Oysters fertilize externally, so you have to separate the eggs from the sperm so that the eggs don't get over-fertilized. And once the eggs are fertilized, I put them into a special tank to grow the oyster larvae for 2 weeks. And then when they go through metamorphosis, I put them into a special system where they can glue themselves to small pieces of shell. They're like 250, 300 microns, quarter of a millimeter. They start putting on shell growth and they look like an oyster right away. And then I take them down to the water to a nursery where I grow them in containers that protect them from predators and constantly have water flowing through them, so they're eating whatever algae is out in the bay. So I grow them in the nursery system until they're about 1 inch in size. Once they get to be about 1 inch in size, we can take them out of those containers and then put them in bags, mesh bags, maybe 500 to 1,000 per bag at 1 inch, and put the bags in cages, and I use those cages to grow them to market size. And then from then till basically when I market them, I'm just screening them, making sure that the containers they're in are clean, keep the fast growers separated from the slow growers, and then it's all about making sure your oysters get enough food to be happy, and you want them happy. Then they're plump in the shell and good to eat. Through over-harvesting, pollution, and diseases, the natural oyster beds became less and less productive over the last century. And so the only way that you could guarantee that you would have something to harvest is if you spawned it yourself. So you're never going to compete with Mother Nature in terms of amount, but years where there's no spatfall, you'll still have oysters because you produced them in your hatchery. So the purpose of the hatchery is just it's a sustainability issue.
I personally had no idea how much work it takes to cultivate oysters, but they are amazing little creatures. Each oyster can filter up to 50 gallons of water every day, and they help act as a buffer to keep the bays and estuaries safe in storms. Not only are they important for the ecosystem, but they're also, of course, delicious.
The only other mission I have in life is to teach people how to open oysters. You go where the shell is hinged together, run the blade along the top shell. You're working the knife in there so that you can get to this point, and then you just twist it. Try not to cut the flesh when you go in. That's the muscle that holds the shell together. And then that's its heart, that clear thing, and that's the stomach. The gonad comes down into here, So this is the mantle, but it has all these like sensory organs on the end of it, so it's how it senses light. And then the gills are right there. Oysters were like the thing to have holiday time. I like my oysters best just a little chilled, but just plain. If they're fresh, I just like to pop the shell open and eat them. I'm very opposed to cocktail sauce because I don't like people putting ketchup on my oysters. I make oysters Rockefeller. I grill them. They're really easy to grill. You just put them on the grill and let them sit there for 5 or 10 minutes, and then it's easy to open the shell. I fry them occasionally, and I make oyster stew. We put them in the refrigerator, and we put them in a bowl, and we just put them with the cup down, and they last for a very long time.
I really want to thank Karen Rivara for her great hospitality and showing us how she raises her delicious Peconic pearls. You can find out more about the Peconic pearls, including where to buy them, on the peconicpearls.org website. You can find out more about the Peconic Bay Land Trust right here. Well, now it's your turn. Let me know how you like your oysters, and please, if you have a great oyster recipe, share it with us in the comments below or on our blog. And we'll see you next week on Working Class Foodies.